Hello Horror Hounds. I want to take a quick look at Cherry Falls from the year 2000. One of the films that sort of came along in the wake of Scream and has sort of fell almost instantly out of favour, because whilst this movie is a la Scream about a killer chasing teens with a large knife, it was the victim of a different kind of knife, the censor's knife. And I think it's a real shame, because what we get is a bloodless, fleshless movie which didn't even get a theatrical release in the US, and so had the dubious distinction of becoming the most expensive made-for-TV movie ever. But of all the movies that followed the Scream mold, this has got the most to offer. It's not as implausible as the Urban Legends series, and it's not as obnoxious as the I Know What You Did Last Summer's, and I Still Know What You Did, and What Are You Planning to Do Next Summer, and That Summer Before Last. Yeah, I know all about that one. Cherry Falls has really got something going for it, and even in its chopped to pieces sort of bloodless form, there's a lot to love about this forgotten gem, which I think is really due a reappraisal. The setup, if you don't know, it really is all that's needed to sell this movie. In the small town of Cherry Falls, there's a serial killer, and the killer is targeting teens who are virgins. And the natural reaction to that for the school kids at the local high school is to arrange for a big losing your cherry orgy, essentially. As one of the characters says in the film, it's a hymen holocaust. And this is one of the great things about this movie. What Scream did to sort of revitalise the slasher, it's the films that followed it took all the wrong elements, all of the wisecracky, cine literate characters who look implausibly 90210 beautiful, and ran with that. Whereas what this film runs with is just the assumption that if you're watching this film, you know horror movies and you know your stalk and slash movies, so no one needs to sit down and explain the rules and why the fact that it's the virgins being killed now rather than if you have sex you die. No one needs to explain all of that. It just hits the ground running, and if you love your horror movies and you love your slasher movies, you're already up to speed as to why that's subverting the genre straight off the bat. It's what it does with it after that that just tips this over the edge. And if the director had been able to keep his vision and keep the full-blooded version and keep the sex that he wanted in it, this would have been just an enormous envelope pusher of a slasher movie, whilst at the same time being as satirical as it is, and as funny as it is, and at times as deeply uneasy as it is and as it's intended to be. And it's all of these things. It's funny, it's creepy, it's tense, it's got a really weird small town, I don't want to say Twin Peaks vibe, because that's the sort of go-to small town reference. It's just that it's a couple of its fangs have been removed by the censors, and oh, what we could have had. But let's talk about what we have still got, because there's still a lot to like in this. As a film about teen sexuality and the awkward transitioning from child into puberty and young adulthood, teenagerdom, that weird sort of null space, this tackles that subject matter, I'd say, almost as well as Ginger Snaps. Ginger Snaps is the high water benchmark for this kind of stuff. And actually, Cherry Falls would make a brilliant double bill with Ginger Snaps, but there's none of the glossy, glamorous 90210. There's all of the awkward, uneasy, not getting things right, not really knowing what you want, and changing your mind, and not changing your mind back again, and discovering sexual power and fearing it, and all of these kind of things are bubbling away under the surface with a movie that is fairly reeks of hormones, and there's a lot of sexual frisson running through this, and all of the characters seem to have sparks with with other characters, not all of them comfortably so. Uh, Brittany Murphy is our heroine in this. Her boyfriend seems to have a frisson with her mum. She seems to have a weird frisson of a relationship with her own father. There's just one very, very short scene where the principal of the high school has a moment with his PA, his secretary, and there's something going on there, and Brittany Murphy's character's got kind of a crush on her school teacher as well, and the teens have their crushes and their exes and their new partners, and it's hormones gone wild, raging through this, which is exactly how it should be. And riding the crest of that wave is Brittany Murphy. There she is on the back. There's absolutely no reason to watch this with a ghoulish eye, given that she's now no longer with us. The the tightrope that she walks with her character between still being a child, still being a daddy's girl, and having her stuffed toys, to already being hurt in love and understanding her burgeoning sexuality and a power that can have, but not understanding it. And it's a fantastically nuanced performance, and she does amazingly well in it. You honestly, you can't keep your eyes off her. And there are standout performances from Michael Biehn as her dad, the town sheriff, as well, and Jason Moore, her teacher. And there's absolutely nothing to really fault there. And all of her classmates, the ones you like and the ones you don't like, they seem like teenage kids to me. The dialogue's great. The dialogue is hilarious. Really darkly funny, but pretty much fucking on the nose. Teenagers are brutal, and it's a really great exploration into these themes, and it's not afraid to go to really dark places. I mean, if you're going to explore teen sexuality, the fact that the movie starts with a couple in a car and the guy is trying to pressure the girl into having sex. I mean, it starts with that, and that's also a sort of classic urban legend type setting. It almost in its opening scene out urban legend, all but for the hook for a hand. So it lays its stall out right there and then with the pressures of losing your virginity, and the pressures that girls are put under by some guys, and the pressures that guys feel to lose their virginity as well, and moves into even darker territories later on, because the dark side of that street's rape, and it goes there, and it's about all of it, really, and it plays with it in really interesting ways. If it had the blood, essentially, that was intended, the kills have been snipped away, and in some instances apparently reshot to be less gory versions. I mean, Christ, Scream 3 and Scream 4 suffered from this as well. Why can't filmmakers make films for adults only to watch? Why are we so queasy about sex and violence? Please, the MPAA in America, British BFCC in the UK, stop nannying us. We don't need it.